Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. Well, we're still parsing through all the information that we learned at InfoComm this year. And one of the things that we wanted to share with you was the full conversation that I had with LetsDoVideo's David Maldow about everything we experienced at the show. And this was recorded the Friday of InfoComm, so the exhibits were still open. We stopped by the Midwich AV On Air studio. Thank you to the Chris Netto and the team at Midwich. And we recorded this conversation. I hope you'll enjoy it. So we are in the Midwich studio. Thank you to Chris Netto and the wonderful folks at Midwich. Still here at InfoComm 2026. I'm with my good old industry friend, Dave. We're old industry friend.
I'm Dave Michaels, and we are Talking Points, the Daves.
You're the substitute Dave.
I am a substitute Dave. Not really Dave Michaels, Dave Maldow, but...
Yeah, and you've been with LetsDoVideo since you left Telepresence Options, so
12 years ago.
Long time ago. So this is the final day of InfoComm 2026. It's Friday. Halls are a little lighter. People are starting to walk around. You start to see some of the vendors mingle out and see what their competitors are doing. You know, hiding themselves behind. Like my custom Talking Point shirt.
Yep.
Anyway. So I figured I'd wear something at least a little different since I'm usually in the polos all the time.
I want one of those.
I'll give you the trick. You can get these individually now. So what are your impressions of the show? What I'll tell you mine, but what's your overall, if you had to close your eyes and tell people what was going on, what's your impression so far of InfoComm this year?
It's a winner. It's a good show again. After the pandemic was so long ago now, but it still has an effect. After the pandemic, some shows did not come back, and it was really sad. And InfoComm is back. And the question of is it bigger than it was before, or smaller, or how much back? We could talk about that, but the fact is, it's a great show. It's worth coming to as a vendor. It's worth coming to as a customer. It's worth coming to as an analyst. It's one of my best shows all year. I'm all in on InfoComm.
Yeah, I actually was very impressed with how the show was this year. I don't think there was any really big slam dunk story like XYZ was introduced or this company's got. There are a couple of little products that I'm excited about, and I'll talk to you about like 2 or 3 of the ones that I found that I find are interesting. Some that I was expecting and some that I wasn't expecting. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing. But
well, the world has changed a little bit. It used to be, and again, I can't believe I'm still talking about the pandemic, but we used to save all our big announcements for the show. And you and I would come to the show and be like, I saw something new and amazing. I saw 10 things that are new and amazing. And now vendors don't save their announcements for the show. They announce their new products when they're ready. And if the show is 4 months later, that's when we see it. So yes, I'm seeing things that I've heard about. There's no surprises, but it's still great to come here and see them. But don't come to InfoComm expecting to see the new products.
Okay, so let's talk about some overall things, and then we'll go down to a few products that we both saw that we either liked or didn't like. So overall, first of all, this has never been a big show for keynotes. The keynote, they used to have a manufacturers panel, which Gary Kay used to do for a few years, and then if there was a keynote speaker, it would be an astronaut or a magician or something unrelated to anything the opening night or the night before the opening night. And with, I guess, I don't want to say demise, that's the wrong word, with the winding down of Enterprise Connect to a different venue and with Microsoft not really being interested in it, and especially with Ilya now being on the board of Avixa, they've added 2 Enterprise Connect style keynotes here. They had Microsoft do one on Wednesday, and they had Cisco do one on Thursday. Did you get a chance to see any of them?
I did see the Cisco one. I had a presentation myself that conflicted with Ilya's. I felt terrible about, but I heard that Ilya's was amazing, and I thought the Cisco was really good, and I'm just happy that they're doing it. I thought it was a big weakness of InfoComm that they don't. They have Ilya's here. Espen's here. They're here. They have great presentations. They can wow a crowd, and there's things to talk about. And there's no keynotes. It really seemed like a big gap. And not only did they have them, they were well executed and they were great.
Well, I think that if they're going to start doing those, there's and ISE is 4 days. InfoComm's only 3 days of an expo floor. I think they're going to have to start doing some of those keynotes the day before on Tuesday when some of the training's taking place, so that they can have a greater, richer program without taking time away from the floor time. I don't know about you, but I've been back to back for the entire conference, and people said, well, have you seen anything new on the floor? It's like, if they didn't have an appointment with me, I might have bumped into them on the way and had to apologize, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't give myself enough walking around time. It's meeting, meeting, meeting. But that's okay.
Yeah, so that was one thing. I'm disappointed with how the education sessions went this year. There may have been some great sessions. I gave a presentation that I liked, but the problem is the show, primarily the expo floor, takes place between the central hall, and all the halls are open, by the way. And for this show, it's the first time that all their halls are open since the construction. They were all open for CES and some other things, but for InfoComm, this is the first time in Vegas that they're back after the construction. The expo takes place in the central hall and the north hall, but all the education is in the west hall, and it is a schlep to get
far.
over to the west hall. I had 10 people in my session. I heard from other people that they had a really great session. They had 40 people there. There should be hundreds of people in these sessions. It's so valuable.
One thing better, 2 years ago, they were using the West Hall and the Central Hall for the exhibits. So I would have a meeting, there were booths in the West
Right.
Hall. So I would have a meeting in the Central Hall, and then I'd have to do the 20-minute, 25-minute walk over to the West Hall for my next meeting. I was late to every meeting. So at least this year, the exhibits are all in the North and Central Hall, which are right next to each other. I wasn't late to any of my meetings. But for some reason, they still use the West Hall for the sessions. So I had to walk 20 minutes, or you could take the loop, but by the time you do that, it's another 20 minutes. But
Right.
you get to sit in a Tesla, so it's kind of cool, to get to the West Hall. And by the time I get to my session, I'm thinking no one's going to walk all the way. I was glad that some people did, but it really seemed like the sessions, it's going to affect session attendance if people have to not just leave the exhibit hall, but walk 20 minutes to get to it.
Yeah, and this is the last InfoComm for under Dave Labuscha's regime. He's retiring at the end of the year. I'm hearing rumors from people that they might be bringing PETSI back, which is the education group, so that we'll be a little bit more formal and go back to separating out the education from the manufacturer commercials. All that stuff I think is very valuable if we can kind of bring it back to where it was, say, maybe 10, 15 years ago before the current regime was in place. So I'm kind of excited and hoping that we'll get a little bit throwback to how that used to be.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about products. What did you see, one or two or three things that you saw that was either really bad or really good or really changed your mind, or what were the topics you were seeing from people?
Well, somewhere out there's a little robot. It's about this high, and it does a little dance, and it kicks a soccer ball. That was my favorite thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Not even in the
like
industry.
little robots.
You got to get to CES more often. I'm not impressed by robots anymore. The robots at CES play tennis with you and they beat you up and whatever. I think interoperability is a growing story. There's a lot of
Yes.
controversies around that. The difference between a certified system on, say, Microsoft Teams or Zoom and a compatible system on, say, Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Something like the announcement that Jabra had with Airtame and what Airtame is doing, and Maldow to a certain extent. I mean, I think that's something that's going to bubble up toward the end of this year.
But one thing I saw along those lines was Barco. And the problem is, and this drives me crazy, and it's the software guy's fault. It's not the hardware guy's fault. If you buy a Zoom bar, it runs Zoom. And if you buy a Microsoft Teams bar, it runs Microsoft Teams. And there are meeting rooms all over the world that have 2 or 3 video bars in one meeting room. People post pictures on LinkedIn. Hey, I just set up this room. We got our 3 video bars, one for Google, one for Teams, one for Zoom. That's not a world. That's not a good world. That's not right. That shouldn't be. I should have one video bar, and I should be able to call Zoom. I should be able to call Teams, whatever I want. And that's not reality. And the vendors, the hardware vendors, are getting really creative trying to make that less of a problem. And Barco had one approach. They have a Microsoft Teams room. It runs Microsoft Teams, but there's a BYOD mode where if you press that button, then you can connect your laptop and make a Zoom call on it without having to get a second bar or a whole new system. You can make a Zoom call in your Teams room. That's the kind of thing we need. And that's just one approach, but a lot of vendors are trying to solve this problem.
And this is the first time I'm initiating coverage of one of the Chinese manufacturers, Insta360. I think they had some really innovative things. Normally is a bad word to use. I've experienced in the past a lot of copycat products coming from certain markets, and if you expect that with them and you're going to see what they have, it's not copycat stuff. It's some really interesting, innovative. They have a little mini gimbal inside one of their video bars to do pan tilt zoom, which I thought was exciting.
I'll have to stop by their booth.
Yeah,
I'll make time.
And they have a new microphone that uses e-paper that I've been using, which is actually really nice. And they're right next door to Shocks, which is trying to make a big impression with their bone conduction headsets.
Yeah, those are interesting.
Anything that you saw that you were kind of excited
Something else I saw. I was stopping by the Aver booth. Aver is known for having a bunch of cameras, but they didn't have a solution for meeting equity. Meeting equity is, we've talked about this to death. You're sitting at home, you're framed properly, you got your webcam right in front of your face. You drive into work, you're in a meeting room, and you're a tiny person in a corner. So we're setting up multiple cameras, and Aver's got cameras for days, but how does the system know which camera to put on which person? So they have a new product called the MT500, and it's basically a matrix switcher box. All the cameras get connected to it through the network, all the microphones get connected, and it's able to figure out with the microphones who's talking, whether it's a Sennheiser microphone or whatever, and which camera angle. A lot of the camera vendors are coming up with a solution. This is Aver's. They just came out with this, and I thought it was compelling.
Oh, it's interesting. Have you seen the Shure video bar yet anywhere in the wild?
No, but everyone's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it. It's on the walls. It's got pictures, and nobody's got them. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Yeah.
So anybody unbox it or test it? I haven't seen that. I haven't yet had my meeting with the team from Owl.
Oh.
Owl, you give them credit for bringing the center of table camera back to the conversation. Well, they weren't the first. Microsoft had the round table before them, and then there was a Silex. So they were the first to bring it back out in that form factor.
They were the first to get it right.
And they've got some interesting new products that they've got in the pipeline that are they're not on the floor. They're in a private room. So we're going to go see that. Although they are on the floor, they're in the Lenovo booth. So I'm definitely looking forward to see them. And again, incremental improvements on some of the products, slightly bigger boards, slightly faster processors, slightly better use of AI. A number of companies doing things with MCP servers so that you can get,
I find that
SDKs.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Neat, for example, has MCP now for their video bars. So if you're a Claude fan like I am, you could say, hey, Claude, get into my Neat bar and fix this and change that and set this up and configure it the way I want, instead of going into the bar and doing it yourself.
Where's the next place you're going to in the industry? What's your next big deal?
Well, I think I have a little break before traveling.
Nice summer off?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going anywhere in July or August, I don't like to travel. It's worth it for something like this, but...
So then our next big industry conference we're going to be at together, which is the CDS-CIX show in Denver.
Yes.
You guys are going to put your chef's hats on
again.
And
me and Kevin, the AI chefs.
The AI chefs. So if you're around Denver the first week of September, check out David and I. David, thanks a lot. I appreciate you.
Could we put one more thing I just remembered?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Something I think you would like. Jeff Smith from Zoom gave a presentation.
Yes.
And we've been talking a lot about how, Zoom's direction. Zoom became Zoom because they're the best at video, and they gave all this love to all the video people. They gave us everything we wanted, and lately they've been talking AI, Zoom AI companion, Zoom made Zoom AI this, Zoom AI that, and it's like, have you forgotten about us video people? And Jeff's presentation was a half an hour of all these new developments in the video side, and he didn't mention AI once. It was the stuff we've been asking for to make the video experience, but simple things like if you're in a meeting room, a title, so you know who's talking, as opposed to just if you're calling from home, you have your name there. But and simple things like that. But it's stuff that we've been asking for, and it shows that maybe they haven't lost sight of how they got here.
Or maybe they've been listening to the complaints,
or they've been
reading
listening to
some of my articles. Yeah, something like that. No, but I did have a meeting with them and with Andrew there, and I think it's good to see a renewed focus on things that are important to the space. So I agree with you on that.
Andy
completely.
Carluccio at Zoom is doing amazing things for Zoom Broadcast.
Oh, you see, Andy, you get a call out. Zoom, Jeff, you get a call out. All the other vendors that we saw, David's going to have tremendous coverage. I'm sure I'm going to have tremendous coverage over the next few weeks with our pick hits. We're looking forward to giving you more information that we got from the show. But for now, thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This was great.
That's it for this week's episode of UC Weekly News. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care.